What's up, YouTube family? Lou here with another Guy Like Collectibles video. So today, this video, I wanted to talk about something because, man, the disrespect in the YouTube community is crazy right now. The disrespect to my man Carlos Delgado. Everybody is hating on him and not giving him any love for the Hall of Fame. And the funny thing is, I've been looking at Baseball Reference. I've been looking at different stats of Hall of Famers that are already in the Hall of Fame. Obviously, right? And I'm looking at these numbers and I'm like, I don't understand how people can say that they don't think he's a Hall of Famer. You know, I'm looking at Carlos Delgado's stats. And it's funny. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, Dick Allen belongs in the Hall of Fame. Such and such belongs in the Hall of Fame. This person belongs in the Hall of Fame. And when I'm looking at the numbers, I'm like, damn, Delgado is like right there with them, or if not better. So I really don't understand. I don't know if it's because he don't have the accolades that a lot of these guys have. And Chris made a good point. Chris from Missouri made a great point last night. You know, I was able to see the replay on it because I got on too late. But in the replay, Chris, you know, I'm listening to Chris, and he says that the 2 years that he was up for MVP, there was guys that were in, guys that were on steroids that won the MVP. And, you know, I'm looking at his numbers and I'm like, damn, you know, if it wasn't for his accolades, if we take all the accolades away, take away all the MVPs, take away all the All-Stars, take away all the Silver Sluggers from every player that's in the Hall of Fame right now, and line up their stats compared to Delgado, will Delgado make the Hall of Fame? And I say yes. You know, here's a guy that hit damn near 500 home runs, right, with 473, has a career batting average of 280, has over 1,500 RBIs in his career, over 1,200 runs. It's got over 480 doubles, an OPS of .929, on base percentage of over 380, and his 162 game average is 280, 38 home runs, and 120 RBIs. I know guys that are winning MVPs now in the last 10 years, like Bryce Harper and even Mike Trout, who have won MVPs with less home runs and less RBIs than what Delgado has on his average, his 162 game average over his 17-year career. He hit over 100 RBIs 9 times in his career, over 30 home runs 11 times in his career. To me, that's a Hall of Fame career. I don't care what anybody tells me. You know, at the end of the day, championships and all that, this is a team sport. Like, look at Mike Trout. He won 3 MVPs, but his team can't even sniff a playoff game. You know, so it's not about that. So, you know, I think the accolades aside, the MVPs aside, and all these other things, we have to start really looking at the numbers here. And I feel like he's being overlooked because he played in Toronto, for one. And secondly, he played in an era where there were so many people on steroids and big steroid guys that were playing first base for that matter, that he got overshadowed. He got overlooked. Because even a guy like Griffey had one MVP season, and when you look at a lot of his numbers where he came in 4th, he had one season, Griffey, that he hit 54 home runs and had over 120 RBIs, and he lost the MVP race. So we really gotta really think about what we're saying here. And if you look at the panel of the 8 players that are being considered for the Hall of Fame this year, those 8 players, you know, obviously, if we were just to go by the numbers, Bonds, Clemens, and Sheffield get in, without a doubt. But now, with the whole PED situation and the steroid situation, now we're looking at it as, okay, well, let's X out Bonds, let's X out Clemens. Now, who do we have left? Obviously, Fernando Valenzuela doesn't have enough for a Hall of Fame career. But you look at Delgado's numbers; he got better numbers than Mattingly, better numbers than um, you know Dale Murphy, but he don't have the accolades that they have. And this is where it becomes kind of troublesome, because we have to take into consideration the production of what they did as a hitter, as a player. And Delgado, like I said, a 162 game average over a 17-year career is 280, 38 home runs, and 120 RBIs. That's a Hall of Fame career. The fact that he had over 9 seasons with over 100 RBIs, and you got guys in the Hall of Fame that may have 4 or 5 seasons with 100 plus RBIs. I start thinking to myself, like, what's going on here? So I'm looking at first basemen here online. And Dick Allen had less than 2,000 hits, so that's less than Delgado. Had less than 400 home runs. He had 351, so that's less than Delgado. And he has 1,100 RBIs, which is less than Delgado. And he's got he's just short of 1,100 runs, which is also less than Delgado. So my thing is, Dick Allen got in, and I know that it was a struggle for him to get in because it took a while before he got in. And I'm not saying that he doesn't belong. That's not my argument here. My argument is that we're brushing off, Delgado like if he was some kind of scrub. The Hall of Very Good? Are you kidding me? He's got better numbers than some of these guys in the Hall of Fame. Look, even in doubles, Dick Allen had 320 doubles. Delgado got 483. Okay? Who else? Let's see. Jeff Bagwell. Bagwell has 449 home runs, less than Delgado. He's got 1,529 RBIs. So he's got basically the same amount as Carlos Delgado. He's got maybe about 10 more. Runs, he got more than Delgado. He's got 1,500. But on average, they are so similar, for the exception of maybe the batting average. The career batting average, Bagwell got 297. But even in doubles, they're not far apart. Delgado got 483 and Bagwell got 488. And RBIs, like I said, 1,500 apiece. He's got a few hundred more hits than Delgado. So even Bagwell is on the same level as Delgado. Delgado's on the same level with Bagwell, I should say, who is a Hall of Famer. Who else? Orlando Cepeda. Orlando Cepeda has 417 doubles compared to Delgado's 483. Home runs, 379 to Delgado's 473. RBIs, 1,365 to Delgado's 1,512. And like I said, and they played the same amount of years, 17 years. Career slugging, 499, and Delgado got a career slugging of, I thought I wrote down his slugging percentage. I didn't. His OPS, 929. They don't even show it on this thing here. I got to go to the baseball reference. But he surpasses Cepeda. Okay, he surpasses Dick Allen. Let's see. Todd Helton. Todd Helton has 369 home runs, 1,400 RBIs, which are less than Delgado. Now, he got a better batting average, obviously. Helton was a great hitter. Who else? Fred McGriff they're also very similar, for the exception that Fred McGriff has some more hits than Delgado. But their slugging is similar. The amount of home runs, the amount of runs and RBIs. Tony Perez, 379 home runs, 1,600 RBIs. Very similar as well. 279 career batting average. 1,200 runs. So he's also got similar numbers to Delgado. So, like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, how is it so possible to dismiss Delgado? And, you know, and I get it. We shouldn't be putting people into the Hall of Fame based off, oh, well, if such and such is in, then, but who are we to compare to, right? We got to compare to the people who are in the Hall of Fame, because that's the only way we could tell if a person is, you know, worthy of it. And I think Delgado has put up a hell of a resume, you know, where he's got a slugging of 546, OPS 929, on base 383. The guy was incredible. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I'm like very like in shock that people were so dismissive of him. And I get, you know, don't get me wrong, Don Mattingly's my guy. I want him in the Hall of Fame. And I think in the 80s, he was like top 3 player in the 80s. But at the same time, we can't ignore the numbers that Carlos Delgado put. You know, like the way he was okay. He was in the Hall of very good. He was average. He wasn't that bad. He was good. He was good. He hit over 40 home runs like 4 times in his career. He hit over 30 home runs over 10 times in his career. It's like, what do you got to do to be in the Hall of Fame? Like, really? Like, I can understand if we're just grasping at numbers and saying, oh, well, you know, this guy, you know, he almost hit 400. No, this guy almost hit 500. You know what I mean? He has solid numbers, and it was consistent throughout his whole career. It wasn't like he had 3 or 4 good years, and then, you know, he played hurt, and then he hit 25 home runs here, and 20 home runs there, and 20 home runs here, and then he played for 30 years, so he got 500 home runs. Oh, let's put him in the Hall of Fame because he hit 500 home runs, even though it took him 26 years to do it. But he never hit 40 home runs in his career. No, this is a guy that was proven year in, year out to be averaging 35-plus home runs a year, over 100 RBIs a year, consistently throughout his entire career. This is a man that belongs in the Hall of Fame. That's why I can't stand like the people who accumulate the stats. You know, like Chris from Missouri mentioned about Jim Cott. You know, yeah, he has 16 gold gloves and all that, and he's got over 200 and something wins, but the guy was never a top pitcher, you know, for a long period of time. He was an average pitcher that was a 500 pitcher at best throughout his career. You know, and that's the thing that gets me. You know what I mean? That really blows my mind. It's like, are we awarding people because they were able to live long and or play long period of time, so they accumulated the stats? Or are we giving the people what they do, like a guy like Albert Bell that played maybe like 12 years, but the guy's got freaking outstanding numbers for each and every of those years? You know, he's another guy who should be in the Hall of Fame, but we're not going to talk about that right now because I want to concentrate on the guys that are on the list. You know, so yesterday I was like yelling at my screen when I'm hearing Baseball Collector and Orlando and all these guys saying that they don't believe that Carlos Delgado should be in. And I'm like, what? Like, are you serious? Like, you know, if he hits an extra, you know, 27 home runs in his career, if he would have just edged it out and say, you know what, I'm going to play 20 years instead of 17, and he hits, you know, 10 home runs a year for the next 3 years, oh, now he's a Hall of Famer. But when he was dominating, hitting over 30 home runs a year and 100 RBIs a year, okay, and over 100 runs a year, and he was producing, he wasn't eligible for the Hall of Fame. But if he gets 500, If he stays for 3 more years and just hits 10 home runs a year, oh, that's a Hall of Famer hitting 10 home runs a year just so he can accumulate to 500. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? That's the thing that bothers me, you know? And if we're going to take errors into account, because everybody's talking about the errors, oh, that this error and that error, these guys used to hit more home runs than this error, than that error. Well, let's look at his era. He played in an era where it was steroid out, that you had guys that were hitting bombs. And in the middle of all that, he was there keeping up with all those guys, and he did it clean. I think there's something to say about that. I think that there's something to say about that. And it bothers me that people who know baseball, who watch the game, who collect the cards and know the players and all these things can really sit there and honestly say, oh, he was okay. Are you kidding me? If his resume would have had a different face on it, if you take Carlos Delgado's name and you put Don Mattingly's name there, he's in the Hall of Fame. You take out his name and put Del Murphy there, he's in the Hall of Fame. You take his name out there and put anybody else that's struggling to get into the Hall of Fame, you'll be like, oh, that's a Hall of Famer. But Carlos Delgado, because he didn't win an MVP, and because he only has a couple All-Star appearances, and because he doesn't have all the accolades that a lot of other guys have, he's all right. This guy got 300 home runs more than Keith Hernandez, and over 500 RBIs more than Keith Hernandez. I get it. Keith Hernandez, great glove, and I still believe that Keith Hernandez should be in the Hall of Fame because I believe in a thing called defense that a lot of people want to forget about. But in all reality, this guy was a beast. Delgado was a monster. You know what I mean? If he would have been playing for any other team besides the Blue Jays, if you put him on the Yankees and he puts those numbers up, he's a Hall of Famer. I don't care what anybody tells me. Putting up 40 home runs a year, 35 home runs a year, 100 RBIs a year, every year consistently, that man would have been in the Hall of Fame already. Back in the day, when they first had him on the ballot. The fact that his name dropped off the ballot goes to show you that he just wasn't a popular player. And because he wasn't popular, that's what happens when you're not popular. You know what I mean? And that's a bunch of BS in my opinion. You know what I mean? And usually I'm very low-key, low-tone, chilling and all that. But this really bothers me and really pisses me off how people can come out and just dismiss his career like he didn't do crap. Like this dude was like I said, on any other team, he would be the man. He would probably be on multiple All-Star teams. But his team sucked because after Alomar left and all these guys left Toronto, and after they won their championships, they were like rebuilding with Delgado. So they didn't have a good team. They weren't coming in first place. Think about it. In the mid-90s, that was all Yankees. You know what I mean? So obviously between the Yankees and Boston and even Baltimore, like Toronto was never a top-tier team after Alomar broke out. So, you know, this is the thing that gets me. I look at his numbers and I'm like, this dude is a Hall of Famer, without a doubt, in my mind. You know what I mean? He was great. He wasn't just good. He was great. Any player that can average over 30 home runs and over 100 RBIs and a batting average of 280 throughout their career, they are amazing players. They are amazing players. I don't care what anybody tells me. You know, and then now, you know, you can't even get guys to hit 250. And we're like, oh, well, that's how the league is right now. You know, everybody's batting that. Give me a break. Everybody's not batting that. It's just that that's what we've accustomed to. Everybody trying to hit home runs, so they forget about hitting line drives and how to be able to hit hits in the gap and in the hole. They want to just go for home runs. That's why they strike out so much now. You know what I mean? That's the kind of baseball that we've been watching. But they hit 40 home runs. Oh, they're the man. But hold on. So if they bat 250 now and hit 40 home runs and they get 90 RBIs, oh, let's give them $700 million. But a guy like Delgado that was doing that with a batting average of 280 and up, over 40 home runs and over 100 RBIs, and scoring 100 runs a year himself, he's not worthy. That's ridiculous, man. You know, at the end of the day, you know what, man? I really believe that people just have their favorites, and they're gonna choose who they choose, and it is what it is. I don't know how the Veterans Committee is gonna vote, how they're gonna choose. I don't know how this whole thing with the steroid things is gonna happen. But right now, you know, if I had to vote, and you know, if it wasn't for the whole steroid things, these are my two. I'm gonna show you my two votes. Here's my vote if PEDs are not an issue. Bonds, Clemens, Sheffield. They're all worthy of it. They all deserve it, right? As far as like when you look at their statistics. Now, as far as with the whole PED situation, I don't remember if Sheffield was on that list, that Mitchell report list or whatever. But let's say it was, right? Then my three votes would go to Mattingly, Murphy, and Delgado. You know, Jeff Kent, I know he hit all the home runs and all that stuff for a second baseman, and I give him a lot of credit. I know he got an MVP as well, so I don't want to take nothing away from him. But when I used to watch baseball, I never thought of Jeff Kent as being one of the best second basemen in the game. That's just my opinion. And I guess because I also look at the fact of, you know, the defense. But if you look at his numbers, realistically speaking, Jeff Kent should be in the Hall of Fame as well. I don't know what's stopping him from getting in. I don't think he was accused of any PED situation. I don't know if he's just not liked the way like Kurt Schilling is not liked. But, you know, the guy did hit a lot of home runs for a second baseman. He leads all second basemen. He's got 1,500 RBIs. He's got a 290 average. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I will still probably choose. I'll probably choose Murphy over him, only because he, you know, like I said, it's so tough, man, with Murphy, because Murphy's like on that borderline. Like he had those 2 years where he won the back-to-back MVPs, but overall, Jeff Kent had almost the same amount of home runs as he did, and he's an outfielder. So it's a tough call, man. It's a tough call. Maybe I'll put Jeff Kent over Murphy, and it'll be Jeff Kent, Delgado, and Mattingly. But if it wasn't for the whole PED situation, to me, it would be a no-brainer. It would be Bonds, Clemens, and Sheffield. And I think everybody's on agreement with that. That if everybody Clemens was a freaking monster even before the whole PED stuff. He was winning Cy Young awards, striking out 300 batters a year. Like he was a monster. And the same with Bonds. He had 3 MVPs before that whole steroid situation happened. Never tested positive. I don't know, man. It's a touchy subject. For me, personally, I think they should all get in. All those that did PEDs and broke numbers, put them in. Asterisk next to their name, and that's the end of it. Just letting people know, no, and maybe they should do like a steroid wing in the Hall of Fame. You know, they do mention it because when I went a couple years ago to the Baseball Hall of Fame, they do mention about steroids. And the whole situation behind it and how it affected the game and this and that. So there is a section where they do speak on it. But they should actually do like their own separate wing based on, okay, these are the players that were either caught or on this Mitchell report or whatever the heck they want to say, and just put asterisks next to it. But, you know, I really think we need to really start thinking about, you know, these guys that are playing long term to accumulate numbers. Like, don't get me wrong, if you hit the statistic goal, you know, the metrics of 500 homers and 1,500 RBIs and 3,000 hits, yeah, that's automatic, and I get it. Even if you was a above average player throughout your career, if you manage to stay healthy, then God bless you. You know what I mean? But I don't think we should kill the guys that had awesome careers in a 10-year span, and because they didn't play for 20, 25 years, we should end up, you know what I mean, saying they're not worthy of the Hall of Fame. Like Thurman Munson, you know. But, you know, that was my rant. I needed to get it off my chest because it was really bothering me. When I heard Mike Baseball Collector kind of like dismiss Carlos Delgado, and everybody in the comments was kind of dismissing him a little bit, and then in the hobby hotline, I think I heard Orlando mention it also, that he didn't think he was a Hall of Famer, and I'm like, what the hell, you know? So I just got worked up, and I needed to do this, and I love all those guys. I got nothing but love for all those guys, and I love their channels, and I continue to watch, and I will continue to watch. But this is what's great about baseball, right? We can discuss and debate all the different metrics and the players and who should be here, who's the greatest and who isn't. And going back to the eras thing, you know, is really hard to say who is the greatest of all time. You know, all we have is the stats. And, you know, looking at the stats, Delgado was a great player. He wasn't a Hall of Very Good. He was great. Anybody that can maintain over 100 RBIs for 11 seasons, you know what I mean? Over 9 seasons, over 30 home runs over 11 seasons. That's a great player, man. You know what I mean? Like, we can't just sneeze at that and look at it like, oh, it's not a big deal. That's a big deal. You know, 1,500 RBIs, that's a big deal. You know, like, you don't got a lot of guys that are doing that. You know, and I think, you know, it sucks that, you know, people feel that way about him. You know, but I really do believe that Delgado should be in the Hall. You know, now, will he get there now? I don't know, because I don't know what's going to happen with Bonds, Sheffield, and Clemens, because on paper, they're the best, right? Like, you look at Clemens' numbers, he's basically one of the top 3 pitchers of all time. All-time leader of Cy Young Awards, and Bonds, all-time leader of MVP awards. You got basically the 2 best players in baseball. And you're going to say you're not going to put them in the Hall of Fame, obviously, because they broke rules or whatever the case may be. So I get it. But it all depends on how these guys vote. Some people are against it. Some people are for it. You know, I've been watching a lot of interviews where I see a lot of guys say, oh, Barry Bonds is the best player I ever seen, best hitter I ever seen. So I don't know. You know what I mean? It all depends who's going to be on these committees. But I don't know, man. If like I said, if we put in steroid guys in, hey, Bonds and Clemens, they're in. They are in. Those are the best 2 names on the list. And then I'll put Sheffield, because Sheffield was a beast too. Hit over 500 home runs in his career, and everywhere he went, he was a hitman for hire, kind of. You know what I mean? So I would give it to him. But if they're not gonna put those guys in because of the allegations, then my vote, Donnie Baseball. That's a sentimental thing for me. Like, that's my man. So I would put Donnie Baseball in, you know, Delgado in, and then it's a coin flip between Murphy and Kent. You know, Venezuela, he's not gonna make it. So You know, he was a great pitcher when he was younger, but you got guys that were better than him. I think Guidry, I think, had better numbers than him. You know, Doc Gooden. I even think David Cone had a better career than he did. But yeah, that was kind of like my my Hall of Fame rant. I just had to let it out, man. I was bottled up in here. I was like, oh, I need to talk to somebody. You know what I mean? So I needed to let it out on video. So take care. God bless. Be safe. Peace. Write down below if you agree with me or if you don't agree with me. It's all good. It's all love. Peace.